Peace, peace, peace. How y'all doing out there, world? I'm Mallah-Divine Mallah. I'm the author of the Hidden Hand Duality Self, as well as Prison Survival Hell's Prism. And what I want to share with you today, thank y'all for allowing me to share first and foremost, is that over the last maybe week, I just been watching YouTube. I like YouTube. YouTube give all social media give different people platforms. Some of the people you wouldn't even know they existed if there wasn't platforms like that's on YouTube. So I was watching the different interviews with the different founders of the New York Bloods, and it's interesting to me. I was watching shows on Queen Flip to BNBN to certain dudes' response, like the fella Snow Billy, and so I'm just looking at this because I see it in a twofold aspect. Now, the first fold is me. I'm a 5%er, member of the Nation of Gods and Earth. Just make that perfectly clear off top. And and I happen to be formerly incarcerated for 19 and a half years, and we had to do a lot of fighting in the penal system against the administration and legal battles because of when the gang ideology hit hard on the East Coast. I'm from Brooklyn, but I did my time down in Virginia. So when it started coming down the 95 corridor and it finally hit the Virginia system, the administration didn't know what it was. So the fact that, which brings me to my point, the first fold is I see a lot of founders or first generation bloods on the East Coast used to be 5%ers, and they still wear they righteous names. And with that being said, let me share a little history about when the Nation of God's Earth for the 5%ers came about in the 60s. Allah, when he left Temple number 7, because he was in the Nation of Islam, but when he left Temple number 7, started teaching the youth, the ones in the streets, the ones nobody wanted to deal with. So he taught the rejected stone. They took on Muslim names at first. I think it was Captain Joseph from the Nation of Islam. You know, he had a discussion with the father and was like, "Yo, these young brothers and stuff, they doing crime with these Muslim names, and we catching flack over at the NOI by the police. What can we do about that?" So the Allah, Father Allah, or Allah the Father, whichever name that is more suitable for you. I use all three interchangeably. Um, he told the young brothers, "Yo, y'all still savages, man. Just change our names," because he respected the Nation of Islam. He respected the piousness of how they was living, and he was like, they shouldn't be catching flack for something these younger brothers doing that got these Muslim names. Hence, they changed their names to names from the Supreme Alphabet and Supreme Mathematics, put names together while you have certain names right now to this day that is not in no dictionary, you know. So now let's look at it in today's time with those that are first generation bloods, those even claiming that they are founding member of bloods, but used to be 5%ers and keeping that name. You know, it's like one thing about a name in any indigenous society. Any indigenous society, your name reflect who you are. And as you develop in that society, you'll constantly get more and more names to show where you at and your growth and development. Just like, case in point, Haile Selassie's name was Rastafari. Ras meaning Prince, Tafari was his name. When he elevated to emperor, he had to take a new name. Hence, he became Haile Selassie. So the name reflect your position. The name reflect where you at in society. So if you a 5%er and you, for whatever reason, because you a gangster God or renegade God, whatever that means to you, and you wanted to be part of that movement, then you should have changed your name. Because why? Because the gods that wasn't bloods living by the tenets of the 5%er now getting associated with what you doing and had to fight. And mostly every state that I know of was fighting legal battles, challenging that gang destination that they put on them. Because with that destination, it cut off our access to our materials that we needed to study and develop. So, and another thing, when you look at the history of the 5%er, they taught so hard that the gangs that was out, whether they was chaplains, tomahawks, or whoever they was, they taught so hard that they taught the gangs out of New York. So people that was part of these gangs in the 60s, once they started getting the teachings, they no longer was gang members. And they no longer was enemies. They became brothers, black, brown, and yellow, under the banner of the 5%ers. So, and when I hear brothers that say they 5%ers going from being a 5%er to being a gang member, it's like you reversing the polarities of the origin of how, you know what I mean, that brothers taught and brothers got out the gangs. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's like a reverse polarity. You know, I think everybody have their own reason, but you should say, yo, if you had love for being a 5%er, and you had love for other brothers and sisters that's not living, you know what I mean, and the new movement you chose to participate in, then you should change your name. That's only right. You know, because why let other people catch flack or catch backwash from what it is that you doing if you saying, yo, I got love for those brothers and sisters over there. And then when you look at, you know, what is our duty as a 5%er, it's certain degrees that, you know, it give you your principal tenets of how you're supposed to be moving. Once you understand who is a 5%er, what's the next degree? What is the meaning of civilization? What's the next degree after that? What is the duty of a civilized person? Now let's look at those two degrees. What is the meaning of civilization? The answer is one have a knowledge, wisdom, understanding, cultural refinement, and is not a savage in pursuit of happiness. Culture, when you culture, that means you cultivate it, that means you develop, that means you bring in the best part of yourself out. Refinement meaning any behaviors, thoughts that's not in tune with you being the best you put it to the wayside. And the savage is speak for itself in pursuit of happiness. When we chasing cars, we chasing money, all this stuff in a negative fashion, we become a savage in pursuit of happiness because we don't care who we hurt in the process. Then the next degree, which is the 18th degree. What is the duty of a civilized person? The duty of a civilized person to teach he who is savage, civilization, righteousness, and knowledge to himself, and the science of everything in life, which is love, peace, and happiness. Now, from who is the 5%er to that degree, I can even go to if a civilized person does not perform the duty, what shall be done? But just the 3 degrees that I mentioned, who is the 5%er, what is the meaning of civilization, and what is the duty of a civilized person. With those degrees, it basically tell you these is the principles that you're supposed to be implementing. These is what you're supposed to be doing as a poor righteous teacher. You're supposed to be adding on. You're supposed to be bringing harmony, not dividing, you know. Unity at all costs. That's the mission of the 5%ers. That's our mission, unity. Knowledge of self. We are not pro-black or anti-white. We are pro-righteousness and anti-devilishment. Unity at all costs. That is the calling card of the 5%ers. Peace.